Welcome to the MVP Show. Full show notes for this episode can be found at nz365guy.com/299. Look at that, one away from the big 300 episode. Before we chat with today's guest, here's a quick message from our sponsors. Today's show is brought to you by the 90-Day Mentoring Challenge. I cover the following key areas to grow your career: communication, consulting, technology, Microsoft, community engagement, personal brand, and career paths. If you want to be mentored in the next 90-day challenge, totally free, please go to nz365guy.com/mentor. Now let's get on with the show. Today's MVP is from Auckland, New Zealand. He's a consultant and director of Uprising. He's a first-time MVP. He's one of the organizers of the Auckland Dynamics 365 user group and the New Zealand 365 Saturday events. He enjoys spending time with his family and friends, traveling, kite surfing, and generally keeping fit, just like most Kiwis. Check him out on Twitter, Hamish Sheild, or at his website, dynamiccitizendeveloper.com. Hamish, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
It's funny hearing your voice from the point that, it's very Kiwi. And
Yes.
I find that, so much of my work is working in either the US time zone or the European time zone. And so I'm on calls constantly in those regions. And then I hear a Kiwi accent. I'm like, oh, apart from my wife and immediate family, I don't have much interaction I can see with other Kiwis these days.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, I think I spent a fair time in the UK for about 3 years, and you do notice that the Kiwi accent, if you don't listen to it all the time, is very polarizing. And I remember when I came back into Auckland Airport, and you've got the announcers over the speakers, and I was just like, I'm almost appalled at our our really crazy accent, compared to a British or an American one. Yeah, it's pretty funny.
I don't know whether I'm biased or whether I just read some bullshit data or something like that, but I heard that the Kiwi accent, they reckon, is one of the sexiest accents in the world.
Yeah, I'm not too sure about that, but
Well, from our point of view, and ask an Australian, they'll tell you that our accent totally sucks. But
exactly.
It was interesting when I first went to MVP Summit. I remember Matt Whitterman hitting on me like no tomorrow because of my Kiwi accent. He called home to his wife and had her talk to me so she could hear it, and his daughter and stuff like this. It was like, yeah, it was obviously very unique to the Americans.
Oh yeah, it is funny, isn't it? Very funny, because like for us, like French or something like that is a sexy accent. Definitely not the Kiwi.
Yeah, for me, it's definitely French, or the other one that I absolutely love is Irish, of course.
Oh yeah, Irish. Yeah, got an Irish friend. You can never stop listening to them, right? It's hilarious.
Yeah, totally. So anyhow, good to have you on the show. Let's talk a bit about you. Tell us a bit about, your sense of place. Where's your home, fun, family, all that kind of thing you do when you're not doing power apps.
Yeah, so as you said, I live in Auckland in New Zealand, and I've been here for the last 10 years or so, and before that I was over in the UK, but kind of outside doing power apps and power platform stuff. It's we live close to the beach. We're a 10-minute walk, so we're very, very lucky. So I spend a lot of the time at the beach and in the water with the kids, and I got two young kids, 4 and 2. So pretty much my life revolves around work, and then anything to do with them is outside of work. That keeps me very busy.
Nice. Are they girls or boys?
One of each. So very lucky to have one of each.
Wow, the little nuclear family, eh?
Yeah. So that's great fun. But when I do get the odd leave pass to get away from the family, I'll be out going kite surfing or in my kayak and going fishing and things like that. So which is kind of, it's great being living in a place like Auckland. You've got all that at your doorstep.
How hard is it to pick up kite surfing, right? It seems like you got to really know how to surf for one, and then you got to be able to hold that, kite airborne and let it pull you along. Was it hard to pick up?
Yeah, it's I've done quite a lot of snowboarding. So the board, I guess, riding the board is very similar to snowboarding or wakeboarding. Very similar to wakeboarding. And then, instead of having a a boat that you're hanging onto for wakeboarding. You're hanging onto a kite, and I've actually come from a sailing background, so flying a kite was kind of came as second nature. So yeah, I was very lucky in terms of it didn't take me too long to pick it up. But in saying that, it's nowhere near as hard as it looks. It looks really difficult, but yeah, it's not too hard. So most people, I think, with if you have a couple of 2 or 3 lessons, most people are kind of up on the board and flying the kite after 2 or 3 hours. So
Have you seen these kind of like surfboards that have a like a fin underneath them, and people, I don't know, do they have a motor on the bottom? But I was down the viaduct one day and I just saw this dude. It seems to be he was bouncing along on it, and no sail or anything like that yet, but seemed to be able to stay afloat or about a meter above the water. Have you looked at those fin boards or whatever they're called?
no, I haven't seen them. I've heard about them. Like apparently, I've heard of guys. Because I got a friend who lives out at Piha, which is one of the surf beaches here, and he reckons some guys they've got these boards and they've got no motor, but they get on a wave and it comes up onto the foils, and then they somehow they pump up and down on the board, which keeps the foils going, and they can go loop around behind the waves and come back and catch another wave again without even um, touching down on the water again. So I think, obviously technology with these foils these days, you don't need a lot of lift to actually get them out of the water. So not surprised that you saw someone without, a sail or anything.
Yeah, and that was on a flat. It was inside the where the boats are, in the marina, and there was no waves, and yet he was definitely bouncing up and down. There looked to be no motor or anything like that, but he was going round in circles inside the marina without any mechanical means. And I was like, wow.
That's crazy. It's awesome. Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, every time you kind of go out to the harbour here, there's someone else who's a windsurfer on foils, or someone's on foils. It's all the rage, I guess, with the America's Cup being here, right? Everything's about the foil.
Yeah, so you mentioned the America's Cup, and of course, for those listening, this is a race that I assume started in America, being that it has that name, and New Zealand are the current defenders, and so therefore all the international contingents have come to New Zealand, and it's race time it's every 4 years, right?
Yeah, every 4 years. Yeah.
So what's your prediction? We now know who the challenger is. We know, that we're going to be defending. What do you reckon is going to be the outcome?
I don't know. It's so hard to tell. Like everyone in New Zealand seems to be pretty pro, the Team New Zealand, and there's rumours that are really really fast boat, but we haven't seen them race the other teams since before Christmas. So I don't know. I think Prada and Jimmy Spittle is such a tough competitor. I reckon it's going to go down to the wire, but I think we'll pull through. I think we'll come away with the win. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's COVID is another thing that's affected, right? Traditionally this type of event would have been probably massively oversubscribed with folks in from all around the world, and of course with the world we live in now, a lot of people they're not even allowed to travel to New Zealand.
Yeah, no, I mean we're so incredibly lucky here in New Zealand. I mean, it's probably the only place in the world that you could hold the America's Cup or any sort of sporting event like of that size at the moment. So yeah, you do feel very grateful for living in a country like ours, that's for sure. Even though as I'm speaking to you, we're in level 3 lockdown right now, but I'm sure that'll pass pretty quickly by the end of the week, hopefully.
One of the best decisions I made was March last year. I was living down the Viaduct Harbour, one building along from Microsoft's office, and I said to my wife when lockdown was obviously imminent at that point, I said, we just got to get out to we had some land up north. It just had a shed on it, and I tell you, best decision we ever made, because when I see Auckland going through those lockdown cycles with the density of the population, I'm just like, wow, I'm so glad I'm not there.
Yeah, no, it's a bit. I guess we can't complain because we've had it really good compared to the rest of the world. But yeah, being outside of Auckland definitely has its advantages right now.
So true, and I'm very remote, so don't see a lot of people, as I say. So tell us about you've been an MVP. How long now? How many months?
We came out, I think 9 months. I think it was July last year. So not very long. It actually seems like a long time ago, to be honest. Yeah, I mean, as you know, the whole MVP, I guess, community it's full on, and everyone's very welcoming, and so kind of once you're in there, yeah, you kind of feel like you've always been in it. So it's yeah, it's a pretty cool experience, that's for sure.
So true. And of course, at the similar time, because I did a podcast with you sometime last year about your business being launched, Apprising. I saw somewhere the other day you were advertising to take on a staff, which means that's growth. So that's exciting. What's happening with your business?
Yeah, so it's super exciting. I guess I've just got to the point. I mean, the Power Platform itself is just, as you know, is just going gangbusters, and everyone is getting on board, and they can see the benefits in taking it on. And so I've just I'm actually at the point where I've been turning down work. I've got too much work on, and my business model is kind of around, or was more around, I guess, enablement for customers on the Power Platform. So how do they adopt it, get their own citizens, developers going, which has been fine. But what I've also found is that um, companies or people just don't have the time to learn all of it. I mean, it is easy to pick up and it's easy to learn and build your own solutions, but they just literally have so many other things going on that they just turn around and say, hey, now that you've helped us get it on board and you've designed us a solution, can you build it for us as well? And so I'm essentially bringing someone on board to help me get through some of the delivery and the development. So a bit of it's a power platform maker. So currently interviewing for that. So it's really exciting. It's a huge leap for someone like myself who's been a one-man band for a year and have just started, but yeah, incredibly exciting at the same time.
So good. So positive to see that. What's your take on the employment landscape in business apps in New Zealand?
Oh, it's if you're an employer, it's so hard. It's been that way, I guess, for a number of years now. But if you go onto LinkedIn or to any of the Microsoft partners in the Dynamics 365 or Power Platform space, that everyone is hiring for multiple roles. So it's incredibly difficult to find people. So yeah, so I guess there's a lot of opportunity for people who want to get more into the Power Platform, or to switch roles from their current job or whatever. There's a lot of opportunity there for people who are looking for work, um, and I think partners are going to have to start bringing on people with that are less skilled, and train them up, and that's the only way that especially in New Zealand here. But I think it's the same around the rest of the world, that we're actually going to be able to make progress and build these, I don't know, millions of apps that Microsoft are predicting in the next few years.
Yeah. Now, and it's happening, right? There's companies like, so I'm just about to do an interview with T-Mobile and just seeing how they're adopting the platform. And then I've had, some of the pharmaceutical companies on that, they're up to their 300th app type thing. And you can see they've adopted the platform and they're going, hey, how much of the old software line of business applications can we retire and have a standardized way of staff to interact with data, but having a total tailored experience by having a custom app to do that. And I think you talked about the opportunity. The opportunity is unbelievable, and the growth trajectory of where Microsoft is going with this technology. I think that anybody starting now would be, I would say 100% safe bet to do a career pivot into the space and to, invest in yourself, learn, spend a year really learning. And I tell you, you could go anywhere, right? There's just so much opportunity, as you say.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, no, I 100% agree that the opportunity is endless, and I think if you look at the Power Platform itself, obviously Dynamics 365 has been around for a long time, but really the Power Platform as a platform for innovation, it's only really been around for a couple of years in terms of being a solid platform, right? So if you start now, you're not actually too far behind the game, um, and you can quickly get up to a competent level where you're building apps, and you can actually someone can employ you for your services. So um, yeah, definitely, I think it's a good career path for anyone who's looking for something new or looking to get started into something.
How are you doing business different? Like, when you say you're taking staff on, one of the things with starting a company in New Zealand, I did, I got the the flash this, the flash office, that all the kind of stuff, and of course it can quickly rank up, your outgoings. Now, in the world we live in, I suppose there's a much less of an expectation around, having office space. Is that part of your thinking going forward, or in how you're going to operate as a business?
Yeah, so I think the way that I'm looking at having it work at the moment is that I've got an office at home, and I work from home a couple of days a week, and then I spend the rest of my time on site with clients, and they provide a desk or a space there. So it doesn't make a lot of sense to go out and get an office these days. And so this with the next person I'm looking to hire. And most people I've been interviewing actually are just by default assume they're going to be working from home, um, just because of the way it is. And so I'm all on board for that. I think that's fine. I think you do need to have a bit of face-to-face time, but um, you can always people can always kind of meet up somewhere and or go hire an office space for a little while. So I think those sort of pop-up or shared office spaces will become probably more common, more popular going forward. But I think everyone's just over the last year, everyone's become so used to working remotely and from home. I don't really see that being a barrier anymore, that you have to be in the same place all the time. But obviously, you've got to put measures and things in place and tools and stuff in place to make sure you can still have that same sort of level of interaction. And you could very much easily lose your identity and your culture, your company culture, if you don't proactively work on it. So something I'm very conscious of, I think, as I build the company.
Yeah, there's a good book called Remote, which was written by the founders of 37 Signals, or now Basecamp. And, they built $1 billion business with, I think, around 9 staff, and all of them lived in different parts of the world. And they only met each other about once a year in person.
Wow, wow.
And they, from the get-go, had this model that they weren't going to build, that small was sexy and small was profitable. And, they've produced it, proved it on a massive scale. But they're able to tap into the best talent all around the world that wanted to work and engage with them without the need to, make business your entire social life and your entire identity, And so it's an interesting model, and it's really applicable in the world we live today, I feel.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, especially being a startup, and and I know you got your own business as well. I mean, when you've got a lot of overheads, there's a lot of pressure to make sure your billable hours and utilization is up as a consultant, and it becomes very stressful. And I've worked in those environments where the business is constantly watching the bottom line, and whether or not you're going to make profit that month and can pay everyone's salaries. And it just gets really painful after a while, and people don't they're not their best selves when they're working. And so if you can kind of take away that pressure of having to be fully utilized all the time, and I think by cutting costs, then people can kind of spend more time on training and learning and all that sort of thing, which we know, especially in the Power Platform, you need to be constantly learning all the time. So there's got to be investment in that area from from a business, instead of just pushing out the billable hours.
So true. So true. Tell me about becoming an MVP. Who kind of nominated you? How did it come about?
Yeah, so coming in MVP, that was a pretty interesting journey. I remember looking at this like a number of 5-6 years ago and thinking, there's no way I'll ever be an MVP. It just looks like a hell of a lot of work and a lot of dedication. And I was like, I'm just not cut out for it. Um, but it's kind of funny, you kind of get sucked into this kind of community, and if you do little things in the community, and the more you do, the more you want to do. And then I find the more that you kind of give to the community, the more you get out. And so it kind of just was kind of like self-fulfilling in a way. It just kind of happened that I'm really enjoying, you know, doing community type stuff, like organizing events and speaking at events and helping out in the forums and those types of things. And so it kind of just all came together through me enjoying that sort of stuff, rather than kind of having a goal to, hey, let's become an MVP. And I think in terms of nominations, um, I think it might have been. I actually asked a couple of people if they would nominate me, because I got that kind of point. But I think Jan Sun from Microsoft here nominated me in the end. So
He used to be. He was an MVP before I was an MVP.
yeah, he was. Yeah, he's an old school. He's been around for a while.
Yeah. I mean, he was very short-lived. Like, I think he was only a year in the MVP program from memory, around 2010 to 2011, that type of time frame. And he was working with Indigen at the time and done a big, like a global tour. It was a release of 2011, I think, from memory. It might have been a release of Serum 4, actually. And that really got him up there. But then I think he left, and I don't know if he went directly to Microsoft or what, or he got out of the industry for a bit. I'm not certain, but yeah.
Oh, I think he was at Microsoft now, and he's been there for quite a long time. So he probably would have, yeah.
So he was a Serum MVP, and then I was the next Kiwi that followed after him. There was nobody in country at that point that was an MVP. So.
Oh wow! And now we've got there's loads of MVPs, aren't there? Especially in business applications.
Totally.
Just over the last couple of years, it's grown a lot.
Yeah, totally. I mean, and that's the rise of the Power Platform, right? The rise of the machines.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, that's right.
Mate, it's been good talking to you. We've already up on time. I feel like I should actually meet up with you for a drink in Auckland at some point, and if I ever go down to Auckland, and get to know you a bit more. But I always like to wrap up with some quick fire questions, as you know. Are you ready for yours?
Yep, ready for them.
Okay, what is something you are certain you'll never experience, and why?
Well, I think, especially again, it's probably with kids, it's never not worrying about someone else. I think with kids, there's always someone to worry about and look after, and I think even as they get older and leave home, you'll always kind of have that feeling of there's someone else you've got to look after the whole time, which is different from when you're in your 20s and you're single and you're free and you're selfish.
So true. Yeah. My answer was never give birth to a child.
Oh right, okay.
Impossible. What's your guilty pleasure?
I'm probably one of those people where if you've got if there's a block of chocolate open or something like that, it'll be gone. Like you don't just have one piece. It's the whole block or nothing, right? I'm definitely one of those people. Yeah, but if it's closed, if you don't open it, I'll be fine. As soon as it's open, it's gone.
Like it. That's rum for me. If you open the bottle of rum, you might as well finish the bottle of rum. How did you meet your best friend?
At school. I've got my best mates. We've been mates since secondary school, and then went to university together. It's I guess one of those kind of quite simple stories, but just basically through school.
Mm-hmm. If you could visit any place in the world, where would you go and why? Forget about COVID. Let's say that wasn't an issue.
Visit any place. I've done quite a lot of traveling, but I haven't been to Japan. I'd really love to go to Japan. I like, I guess, places where there's good. I guess Mexico is probably one of my favorite places because it's got a good culture, completely different culture from us, really good food, and so I think Japan kind of ticks those boxes as well. Completely different culture, something else to experience, and good food as well.
I like it. Would you rather give up your smartphone or your computer?
Probably the computer, to be honest. You can do just about anything else on your smartphone at the moment, so yeah.
What book have you read recently that you would recommend and why?
So a book I've just finished reading actually is a book called Sprint by Jake Knapp. So as you know, Mark, I'm quite into design thinking and applying design thinking to the way I approach Power Platform. But I guess what I'm struggling with is design thinking is kind of quite loose, and the way that you I guess apply it to things is quite interpretive. So the design sprint is all around how you apply design thinking in a very structured process and gives you step-by-step ways of doing it. And so currently looking at how can I include those sorts of things as part of my service offerings. Really cool book, even if you just got some quite good ideas about how to run workshops and get people to participate and make decisions about design and those sorts of things. So highly recommend that one.
Nice. Hamish, thanks for coming on the show.
Excellent. Thanks, Mark. And yes, definitely, if you're ever in Auckland, we should catch up for a beer. We've spoken a couple of times over the airwaves. It'd be good to catch up in person.
Hey, thanks again for listening. I'm your host, Business Application MVP Mark Smith, also known as the NZ365 Guy. Please like and subscribe in your favorite podcast player. If you'd like to leave a review, go to nz365guy.com/review. As always, stay safe out there and see you next time.